Welcome to Politi-Talk Centered. I'm your host, Sandman.
And I'm your co-host, RJ.
For today's show, we're talking on the topic of police policy and current events in the nation. Joining us today is Mr. Marty Katz, um, who has recently re-released his book, Past the Uniform, which follows a new recruit and his field training officers. They face the joys and frustrations of society as it cries out for help. This is an inside look at the human side of being a police officer. It's now available on Amazon Kindle. So you're a retired sergeant from the Broward Sheriff's Office in Fort Lauderdale, and I just believe you served 34 years there. Is that correct?
A total of 34 years. I started out in a small department in New Jersey for about 8 years. I moved to Florida and worked for the city of Coral Springs until there was an opening on the sheriff's department because I wanted to go to the largest department around.
Okay. And just like kind of looking through your bio, quite a few interesting positions. You were a field training officer, member of the SWAT team, participated with undercover narcotics, as well as was a academy instructor. You worked with street crime suppression units, and as well as criminal investigations patrol. Was there anything like during that time? Was there kind of like a progression as you worked your way up in that, kind of like specializing in things?
Yes. First of all, I'm the guy that never said no to any assignment. Take the good
Hmm.
and also the bad because you take more bad, you get good. I
Yeah,
started out as a patrolman, went to a plainclothes street crimes unit. From there, I got into organized crime and SWAT. At the same time, I was teaching firearms, defensive tactics, and a few other items at the academy level. And I took the sergeant's test and became a sergeant, and I worked at a couple places there. Actually, I ran the recruitment division for the largest fully accredited sheriff's office in the country. And she was a shift supervisor for 45 guys and sergeants, a couple K-9, and also for a while was a detective sergeant.
okay.
That's a pretty impressive
Nice.
resume.
Lucky, I guess. Right place, right time.
Yeah. And then going into the certifications, I'm guessing these are more stuff that you currently hold, and then we're showing that you're a Florida Department of Law Enforcement certified instructor for firearms, defensive tactics, driving, and first responder. And one that kind of stood out to me was the ethics and human diversity. Could you touch on that, kind of what that entails?
Right, well, as someone who was a mentor for police officers, I wanted to get to them before they made mistakes or got themselves in trouble because things happen in a split second. When
Hmm.
ever seconds count, help is just minutes away. Well, I got involved with the International Association of Ethic Trainers. I became the Florida chapter president. And it was it's a strange duality to be someone who does tactical SWAT training, hands-on defensive tactics, still blend ethical ability and the human diversity factor. It was kind of like a catch-all person where it enhanced my ability to interact with people, be involved in homeowners associations, different groups, a lot easier. And as a supervisor, I was able to pass that message on to my troops.
Okay. Nice.
Pretty impressive. So
Yeah.
it was more focused. So the training was more focused on like your fellow police officers, like rookies and stuff, more than like in the field situations.
Well, there's a duality here. I wrote an officer survival course that every new officer going out of the academy had to take. It went past the course. It was called Officer Survival Mindset. What you need to do on the street. At the same time, be cognizant of the fact that you're in the public eye and you don't want to be on the 6 o'clock news, which we see often now. I would teach new students, then constantly doing in-service training every year for the whole department. And I had my own shift that I had to work with and correct problems as they happened and let them be creative and let them kind of fly on their own. So it kind of covered the whole spectrum of police officers.
Okay.
Nice.
It was a rare opportunity to really get involved at so many different levels.
Kind
Such a big
of
department.
like what you were saying earlier too, like just the right place at the right time. Very nice. Um, and then going on to the other certifications, you've you have certification for expert witness for use of force issues, which I want to touch on a little bit later on, as well as a member of the International Law Enforcement Educators and Trainers Association, and past Florida chapter director, which I think you talked about that just a minute ago. One thing I think is really awesome was that you trained in Japan with the Tokyo Metropolitan Police, riot police. Um, what was that like, and like what did you learn from them that would be different between the cultures, I guess you could say?
Well, here's the background. In 1958, at age 7, I got involved in martial arts and stayed with it to
Hmm.
this day. It opened up a lot of doors. It gave me command presence. It gave me an ability to rely on my own body rather than the impact weapons of a police officer.
Hmm.
Many times it prevented things from escalating. 1984 and 1986, went to Japan for 1 month each time to train in martial arts and with the Tokyo Metropolitan Riot Police. At that time, I was teaching our field force in the Broward Sheriff's Office, which is about 600 officers that would respond to a riotous situation, and some of the techniques that I was picking up from other countries, like in Japan, what their riot squads did. And I brought that education back to try to integrate it into what we did here in America.
Okay.
With the riot training, what did that all entail for the actual most part? Like, was it more crowd control, weapon control, or like, and how did you pass that on to, your fellow police precinct and stuff like that?
It basically is I call out a field force to respond in an overwhelming use of display as possible. The idea is to stop the fight before it happens, command presence. It would be how to line up and move forward as a unit, just separate the line, have the arrest team go forward, bring someone in custody, and bring them back to practically put on the gear you need, like a gas mask, while half the unit does it, and the other half stands by. How to use the shield, how to use the baton, different come-alongs, different takedowns, to control someone with using a couple officers, so each person has a little bit of part of the problem. You're not like on one where the police officer might get hurt because he has a full gear on and equipment. You can't move like a person that was out there in just a pair of jeans. So it looked at a lot of different things of what was happening, how to come up with a workable solution so everyone went home at the end of the day not hurt.
Absolutely. The last thing I want to touch on is that you're the owner in chief of Crime Wave Solutions. Kind of what does that bring to the table for police officers?
Well, I'm probably one of the few people that teach the Lindell handgun retention method. I started in 1984, 82, learning how to defend a handgun in the holster, because you get into a fight, there's always, no matter what a policeman does, there's always at least one gun present. Had
Hmm.
the incident where the guy took the taser away. So we worked on defending the handgun in the holster and if it was out.
Hmm.
I had this idea with all this training I was doing, coupling martial arts, common sense self-defense, things that worked that I found working in the busiest streets of America, South Florida during the drug wars, took the techniques that worked, formulated a thing called Crime Wave Solutions, help people, well, police officers. Then I got into teaching self-awareness to like real estate brokers, airline flight attendants, under people. When I was a detective at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport as part of the sheriff's office, I interacted with all these other people. They always approached me. For a couple of months, I was a juvenile officer when I worked in the city of Coral Springs. The teachers asked me to show them self-defense. I kind of took all this stuff and wrapped it up together because my joy was hearing someone say, someone attacked me, I had to call 911, and it was an ambulance for the guy who attacked me.
Hmm.
I'm very much supporting victims. The victim never forgets their attacker.
Yeah.
It may have a lasting on them ever. So the idea is to teach women self-defense, children self-defense, stop bullying through command presence, having confidence that you don't have to. Oh, the best fight you can win is not fighting, and the best way to arrest someone is to talk them into handcuffs.
Yeah.
No need to get physical. There's always an opportunity, the potential of something happening wrong. Try to stay away from that. You're ready, prepared. You don't have to go there if you don't have to.
Absolutely. That kind of segues us into our first talking point on police training. So it's always been my viewpoint, and from what I've heard too from other officers that have been talking on these issues, that I think one of the biggest issues we have when police resort to, deadly force, lethal force, is that they're up until that point, there were things that they didn't do or they couldn't do because they didn't have either confidence in their abilities or training for those kind of situations. What's your kind of take on the average officer and the training that they actually get?
Okay. This is where I differ from almost anybody you're going to speak with. I invented called it a use of force chair in my office when I was a patrol sergeant. Any officer that was involved in use of force, which meant physical confrontation or impact weapon, just short of a firearm, because that goes to a different unit.
Hmm.
Uh, they would come in and they would sit down and we would discuss it. They would know before they left that office if they were within policy, they were going to get accommodation for officer of the month, or they need an attorney to defend their actions.
Hmm.
We would go over that, and I would build as a teacher. I was always being tasked to come up with new things from the command staff to find a way to reach the people. So we would take these things apart and play devil's advocate, not to get someone in trouble, but if they were wrong, they were wrong. I mean, that's the way it is. That's life. You're wrong, you're wrong. Everything has responsibility. The idea was that I would know if there's a problem. No one got involved. If there was 2 or 3 times something happened, I wanted to know. I would know about it ahead of time
Hmm.
before the 4th one happened, and I'd be up to me as the immediate supervisor to correct the problem and let the command staff know through up the chain of command through the lieutenants, captains, majors, the whole bit. We had a problem.
Hmm.
Now the responsibility, the liability is on them because I did my job. And they wanted to do their job, so I kind of forced them to address issues. Doing it this way.
Okay.
That kind of answered some of the questions.
Yeah, yeah. And then another kind of thing in regards to training, how common is it for extra training that police can get that they have to foot the bill for those trainings and it has to be like on their own time? Is that a common thing?
Yes and no. Again, I hate to say I set a standard, but if you worked for me, I try to provide. Every year you have a 40-hour training block, mandatory training, whether it be qualifying with your firearm, which you did a couple times a year, or it was learning about juvenile case law or doing CPR or AED qualifications, bi-yearly, yearly, or whatever. I would make sure that if you were an officer that showed some sort of promise and did get in trouble, I would arrange for you to have a 40-hour course pertaining to your job, and we would pay for it.
Okay.
That's the first thing I do. Second, I encourage people. I've been to like 150 or more schools. I encouraged everyone to go to school, learn as much as you can, learn about common denominator with dealing with people. I told people that any of the schools I went to, I took my own vacation time, my own pay, because I saw the benefit down the road that when I went to court, when I was being civilly sued, I could defend and articulate my actions. I said that we will help you with school. Everyone can go to school. No one has ever been really denied school unless they put in for, if they're a traffic officer, they put in for a helicopter pilot, yeah, they won't get it.
Yeah.
But if I could find a way to word it, your job function, I could probably get you in that school. And my department had 6,000 people, and my shift had the most officers, whole department with the most officers of the month, most active. You had to qualify to get on my shift. I was very, very strict. I was like crazy person that you had to have an earpiece in, so when you're working at night, only you can hear what the radio's saying. You got to learn how to drive at night with your license siren, know how the siren bounces off buildings. To work with a canine officer. My enthusiasm was infectious, so to speak, as you can probably see.
Yeah, yeah.
The idea was to make you the best officer so that you can do what you had to do, go home safe without having to end up in court because you did something stupid, or your mouth got you in trouble, or you forgot that you're in the public eye. That it all kind of goes together with my philosophy.
For sure, that definitely seems like a good standpoint right there.
Hmm. Absolutely. On the for something that not maybe like the national headliners, but just for officers that might be doing practices that might be by the book, by the law, but maybe not what they should be doing. Is there like a
You
mentality?
mean you mean you mean awful but legal? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
kind of thing. Like could have been better, I guess you could say, loosely. For an officer with the mindset that um, they're not necessarily like a bad cop. They're not trying to go out and break the law or anything, but they just have the mentality that what they're doing is good, that they don't really need this extra on the side training. Is that like a prevalent mentality with some officers that is kind of part of the problem maybe in some of these instances?
Yeah, that is part of the problem. What good supervisor would do is they would know their people. Got to know how many people write tickets, who knew what garage doors should be open in the area they're assigned. You had to know your area, you had to know your people. It's very, very important. Our accountability process was, even though I only worked 40 hours a week, I was responsible for a certain part of the county 24/7. If there were 3 or more crimes, I better have an operation plan to address it. I took this mindset to shift. I watch people how they write the reports because I read their reports. But I write on their calls to watch how they handle things. I'm not saying I sneak around. I make it quite obvious. I'm in a uniform like everybody else. I'm in a marked car. They know I'm on the radio. I'm coming there, and I watch for people's clues. I watch for their eyes when I talk to them. They move to the recall section or the creative section of their mind when I'm talking to them. It's like they're trying to dig themselves out of a hole they got into because they were lazy or they weren't suspicious, inquisitive, or thorough. So on my level, it affected me. No one's going to take away my pension. I'm not going to go to jail because someone who worked for me did something stupid when I knew about it. If I didn't know about it, then yeah, I can't be held accountable. Once I knew, because I first of all, every new officer that comes to the shift is on probation for a year. So every month they get an evaluation. We sit down, we talk. I do the evaluation. We talk. It's very, very straightforward. And I tell them, maybe you should work at Burger King. You shouldn't be here because you're headed for some place that's bad. And once a year you have an evaluation, and that's usually tied to a raise. If you don't do that right, you're not going to get the money.
Yeah.
You don't care about that. My job is, as a police officer, to make sure that they go home safe, I go home safe, and the public gets protected and served. The story. That's it. Victims, care about victims and follow them through all the way through the cases. Basically, how I ran it. And that's why, really, there is some problems out there. There are people that don't think this way. There are cops that get in this us versus them mentality where they're not really wrong, but they're not really right. And it comes back to, what would you do as a person? How would you want to be treated? And that kind of plays a part of my philosophy too.
Absolutely. Also, with the topic of training, recently we've been seeing a lot more on different precincts and stuff wanting to ban chokeholds. What is your opinion? I know with your martial arts background, I'm sure you have probably a very big opinion on this one, but do you think that people just don't understand the use and actually how safe it is to use a proper chokehold versus trying to wrestle someone down and just deal with them flailing around until they finally tire out? Do you think chokeholds should be kind of reevaluated in a different way than they are right now?
Of course, first of all, when you're fighting someone who could bench press a Buick, you have a problem. Really
Yeah.
do. Now, as you know, there's two kind of chokeholds. One that work on the wind, one that works on the carotid arteries. Vascular neck restraint work on a carotid artery. That kind of puts someone into like a sleeper
Yeah.
hold. Fortunately, there's physical things that you would not know about in that person that may not cause the arteries to open up as quick, and they may go into some sort of medical distress. Now, you don't have to be certified in choke, but if you feel your life is in danger, I mean really in danger, not just a guy pushing you or punch. I mean, you're really in danger. You're fighting for your gun. You're fighting for a knife. You're fighting for a gun that's out of the holster. Yeah, then anything goes. You can hit him with a brick, even though you're not qualified with a brick. Tire iron. It's okay. As long as you can articulate it within the structures of the use of force matrix, your Supreme Court decisions, and your policy. But I think people who just learn the technique, then they get stressed out, don't always know how to use that technique the proper way it was trained to be. If you don't have your own confidence going into this, I know every cop I know says I could shoot them. Most of them can't hit the side of the car. I know that. So, I'm a realist because of the training. If I put you in a chokehold, I don't care what you're doing, it's going to work. The average guy who went through 22 weeks of police academy and then never really went to school again except for his mandatory in-service every year, basically got by the seat of his pants. He gets put in, he goes from condition white, which is oblivious, his head's up his rear end, to condition black, which he's speaking a foreign language because he's stressed out. He will probably do that technique wrong, and he will be the next poster boy on the 6 o'clock news. So it comes back to what you bring to the table, life experiences, police officer. A 2-week academy does not take a private citizen to become now a good police officer. It takes a lot more than that.
Did you have anything, RJ, to follow up on?
No, I mean, that was pretty self-explanatory in my opinion. I mean, definitely seems to know a lot.
Yeah.
Knows his crap.
I try.
I mean, it's good.
See, you talked about crisis intervention training. I know you're going to head to that. Okay, what larger departments have done, have taken certain up creative police officers working the streets, have shown promise to being able to, 2 and 2 is 4, not 7. Got them where they can send them to specialized school so that if there is a thing that's outside the normal, like now we become specialists. When I first started police officer in 1973, I would handle everything from a fatal traffic accident to a barking dog. I had no specialized training other than the police academy. That was it. As we developed as a profession, we got specialized, where now we have because that work just burglary, just robbery, just sexual abuse, just lost persons. So we'll take a guy on the road. Big department, we had what's known as the Baker Act. In Florida, Baker Act is a person who's mentally ill. We had a Baker Act unit that would come out and respond when it was known that the person was in some sort of crisis or the court order that he had to appear to be taken into custody for evaluation. Because they weren't always available, certain people on the shift, usually the field trained officers that were a little cut above the others, as that were like corporals, act as supervisors when the supervisor wasn't there. We would take them and they put them through a very intensive crisis intervention training called CIT, and they wear a little pin on their uniform that said that, little gold pin. And it would be the ones that I would take them off their assignment, them respond, take over a case, or to assist deputies, we call them deputies for the sheriff's office, assist them in moving forward and making sure all the T's are crossed, the dots were, I's were dotted, just to make sure that it went good for a prosecutable case or for follow-up later. You kind of ingrained that into it. Not every department can afford that. The sheriff's department, where I come from, the budget was $1 billion a year, so we can do a lot of things. So we took a chance, and because of my position, I had an opportunity to be vocal. And I was only a sergeant, but I did pass the lieutenant's test. I was a sergeant, and I retired. I had voice because I helped write the curriculum in Florida for the 39 police academies. I do a lot of teaching, so I kind of had a reputation. So I was in a good position.
Absolutely. And like with CIT2 as well, like how, because I know when you have like a mental health issue or something, somebody's either getting violent or out of hand, the police are the ones that respond to that. Do you think as a whole the average officer is properly equipped to deal with those kind of cases where it's not just dealing with a rowdy person, there's a psychological and mental sensitivity there?
Well, there's 2 questions here that have to be addressed. One, it's the physical violence against the officer, and one school of thought is I really don't care what his problem is. I don't want him putting a knife in my chest. I don't want him choking me out. So there's that. You got to stay safe. The other one is that maybe there's a way to not what's the word I'm looking for? Not to accelerate it, but to calm it down.
De-escalate.
Most officers, this way. Most officers don't take a hard look at themselves because they haven't been tested yet. Haven't been tested in these things. That's why training hands-on is so important. And I'm not knocking the profession. I'm just saying that it's so big and so diverse that you can't cover everything. But A lot of officers go to basic survival, switch right to condition red, which means all
Hmm.
hell broke loose, because they weren't observant, they didn't look for danger signs, or there's a lot of things happen at one time, or they missed it, or there's a whole bunch of reasons. All are justified. At the end of the day, a person that's not in control of their faculties has to be controlled in a way that they can't harm themselves or
Hmm.
someone else. Those are the techniques you have to work on, whether it be verbally, like verbal judo, or a come along hold, or some sort of immobilizing
Hmm.
technique takes them down. Now, this all sounds great in the fantasy world, and it does work in the real
Hmm.
world sometimes. And sometimes things go crazy, and people end up getting thrown through
Yeah.
picture windows. Things happen. But at the end of the day, look at what you did. You try and prove it, and that's what CIT did. CIT looked at what the problem was, both the physical and the
Hmm.
mental aspect, come up with policies and procedures and training allowed this person who's a CIT officer to have enhanced training, to be a cut above the rest. That's a
Hmm.
specialized, like he was a specialized crime scene guy, or he was a specialized breathalyzer
Hmm.
operator. But it gave them something else. It's something, it made extra money for him, and it was like an
Okay.
incentive program.
So on the next topic, going into no-knock warrants, um, in your opinion, what do you think is the public misconception to them?
Well, first of all, the reason you have a no-knock warrant is for two reasons: one, safety, and two, destruction of
Hmm.
evidence. Working in Florida in the 80s, and it was crazy. In fact, the sheriff was a technical advisor for the movie Scarface. And the cops TV show started with my
Wow.
drug unit back in the early 80s. We were a very, very sophisticated SWAT team. We could clear a house in like 10 seconds. We
Hmm.
practiced all the time. The no knock was if there's going to be danger. And to get a no knock search warrant, not only does it have to be approved by the department, it has to be signed off on a judge like every search warrant. You have to show a particular reason, and more than just reasonable suspicion. It has to be a known fact that this person is destroy the evidence, or you're going to walk in and the guy has a fully automatic MP5 submachine gun. You have to, there might be like 30 people in this place in their biker group, whatever. You have to be able to articulate why. And when you do it, you are in uniform, something that says that you're the sheriff's office. Because if you don't, someone may think this is just someone breaking in because he's a bad guy, and bad guys have bad guys that don't like him. You have to do it properly. You always do a drive-by to check out the house first or the property. There's so much that goes through that the public doesn't know before you can do a search warrant. The checks and balances that you don't hit the wrong house,
Hmm.
you don't do a problem. So you have to get so much approval to do a no-knock
Yeah,
search warrant.
absolutely. I had been following Brandon Tatum, and he was a former police officer, and just describing the weeks to months of investigation and evidence collection that goes into that to back up a no knock, as well as just it's rare. Like you have to present a very strong case to a judge before they'll even consider signing off on a no knock warrant.
They're taking away someone's constitutional rights without any warning and putting them in a very weird situation. They don't know what's happening. 3 o'clock in the morning, flashbang, and a bunch of guys coming through your apartment.
Yeah,
That's kind of
absolutely.
scary. If you have a weapon and you shoot, there's an understanding that the mindset of the person that is the victim of this search warrant, or say subject of the search warrant. You have to understand from his standpoint too, so that you're not being
Yeah,
cowboys and
yeah.
craziness. Yeah, there's a whole lot that goes into good policing.
And kind of going into that with the you could call it the dangers of a no knock. It's very rare, but it's not an exclusive that you hit the wrong house, or whatever else, and and a law-abiding citizen, they're not aware that you're the police, and they go to defend themselves. Um, that they're not you know legally they're not going to be charged with murder because they were defending themselves in a situation that they were not aware of the context to it. How how often, from your experience, was a no knock done incorrectly, or like, it just wasn't the right house, or the right people weren't there?
Uh, my time on a SWAT team, we've had one house we hit wrong. It was a duplex. We hit the wrong side of it. The doors are next to each other. Look at the pictures, and maybe they were twisted or something. And there was hell to pay on all levels, and people were in a lot of trouble, and reprimands came down and time off. No one was hurt. Happened to hit the wrong door of the two doors that were next to each other. We took tremendous care, tremendous responsibility, because you're going in, guns are ready. We had back then our sidearm was a Colt 45, so it was cocked and unlocked. A whisper can send it off. That's why we train so much. We train until we can't get, not till we get it right. We train until we can't get it wrong. And so it's had to be approved. And we had in-house counsel. Before we did anything, we had to make sure that the in-house counsel was aware of this. Everyone knew about it, and the dispatch knew about it. They knew everything. Everyone in that area knew about it best they could. Also, it was something totally secret, like something special, which is a whole other ballgame. But we made sure that it was done right, because I don't want to lose my job because someone did something stupid. You're not taking away my job because you're stupid. I'm not going to do anything stupid. I know that. So I know that everyone on my team knows the same thing. I know it's not going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are human.
Yeah.
It's good.
And you kind of touched on it, like with the pros of a no knock. Obviously, the justifications being the evidence destruction, as well as the safety of officers, and even the perpetrator that you're arresting. Trying to protect their life.
It's a perfect. Let me interrupt you for a second. I'm going to interrupt you for a second for one case. We're going to do a house in Fort Lauderdale, a drug house that was a bunker. The house was a concrete bunker. It had gun portholes on the side. It had cement surrounding 55 feet out. It was a killing field, circled the house. It had chain-link fence, barbed wire on top of it, and searchlights. It was a drug safe house. Figured out how we're going to hit this house. And the only way to do it was probably an explosive entry or suppression fire, which I don't think has ever been done in police work before. We thought about this. There was a no-knock warrant, and there were kids involved. And this is the most dangerous thing in the world. We could wait for the guy to come out, but they had a generator, and they don't think they're going to come out. As we did a drive-by, one of the children had opened the gate, the street, and had the garage door open. We ran over the kid, didn't hurt the kid, we just ran by him, and in the house while the people were holding guns. So fast. That was why we have a no-knock search warrant. That's a prime example that doesn't happen too often like that. We tried. We wanted to cut power, but they had a generator. We're going to wait them out, but again, it becomes a budgetary thing. Sometimes it's the luck. But being the first guy in on a no-knock search warrant, I was many times, because I'm not a big guy. The guys behind me are like 300 pounds. I'm 175, 180 pounds with a vest on, like 200 pounds. I'm running through in the heat of summer in Florida. I don't want this guy crashing over me. I'm moving, and I'm looking in a room that might be filled with tear gas, smoke, might be dark, might be a flashbang. It comes back to the training. Not just everyone can do a warrant. You have to train for a warrant. You have to train as a unit for a warrant. No one shoots into the house. No one enters the house while the SWAT team's there. There's all kinds of things that the public doesn't know about. It's good and bad, because they get ahead of a problem. Ferguson would have never happened if the police chief there would have got ahead of the problem. Reachable and reach out there and said, this is what happened and this is why it happened.
Yeah. And then for no knocks, I think is it standard that those are carried out by SWAT?
Should be. I know some places don't have a SWAT team. Places gather everyone from the road. They get together and they talk about it and they go. But every time we did something in our agency, because of the size, because of the city, like the city of Fort Lauderdale, city of Pompano, they're very inhabited. There's millions of people there. It was an ordeal. You just didn't come up with something. Else it was a buy bust where you did some kind of drug deal and then you chased the guy and you went into a house and you went in after him. It's not really a search warrant, then that's fresh pursuit. For a search warrant, it should always be done. No knock has to be done by a SWAT team because of tactics. But a regular search warrant, you can knock on the door and say, we have a search warrant, we're coming in. You open the door, we walk in, hand you a piece of paper or read it to you, and then go about what we do. usually that's kind of peaceful and the person kind of knows it's going to. For no knock, you need to be ethically savvy.
Absolutely.
Or it's a recipe for disaster.
And that kind of brings me to the next topic of SWAT and riot tactics. There's talk of defunding police, which I think is on the extreme side, but then the kind of lesser extreme is demilitarizing the police force. And I feel like I can see where the argument is coming from, but once again, it's a misunderstanding and misconception of the public and what police actually do and the tools that they need. And especially when it comes to a SWAT team, the jobs and actions that a SWAT team is required to do requires at minimal decent level of military grade equipment. What's kind of your take on that?
Okay. Okay. First of all, if you're a fireman, there's a grass fire, you don't send a hook and ladder truck to the grass fire. If you're on the 6th floor of a building burning, you don't want a small tanker truck respond. You want a hook and ladder truck. So after things like the Black Liberation Army in the 60s and the riots in LA, then the Bank of America, the Norwalk bank robbery, different things where bad guys started having guns that went through the ballistic vest of a police officer, except for the ceramic vest, which not everyone wears. That's a SWAT thing. It weighs about 60 pounds. You need something that you can move up close to the scene, safety to negotiate or to do a hostage rescue or an officer down rescue or a victim rescue or a witness rescue. You need the equipment. You don't use a Bearcat type vehicle to do a traffic stop in the middle of the city. Don't do that. You don't need to. At the same time, you need to have something that looks authoritative because you want to send a special message. It's how you act with that. The problem I see today is that no one is taking the time to explain why you need something. Yes, it looks bad. If I'm sitting there and on the 6th floor of a burning building and you pull up with a bunch of small tanker trucks to put out the fire, I want the hook and ladder truck. At the same time, I don't want you to bring out a hook and ladder truck if it's a small grass fire in a median strip. So no police leader is taking the time to say, hold it. I'm saying go to their church, go to community center, go out where you have to go out and explain why you did this tactic. Remember, if you know anything about law enforcement, it came from Robert Peel in London, 1800s, where he talked about the police are society is the police, just that the police get paid to protect society. So we're part of society. It's not us versus them. Part of society. It's our responsibility to educate you as to why I needed this piece of equipment. I needed this because those bullets are going through me, through the car, and I can't save a little old lady that fell down the street in a crisis situation, or like a shooting in the Pulse Club or out in Vegas. You need that to get in to pull someone away. You need that protective armor. If as long as you use it the correct way, let people know why you used it, you'll be the hero. Instead of this having to resign or looking like a fool up there and backpedaling or changing your story 6 or 7 times. Just tell the truth. You're in the truth business. You're not allowed to lie as a police officer. If I get caught lying, I'm done. You lie as an accountant, lie as a guy who works at 7-Eleven, but if you're a policeman and lie, you're done.
Does that count as like a perjury, even out of court?
Done. You're done. Now I tell people, if you enhance something, I have a problem with you because now I don't know if I can believe you. I have to be able to trust you. If you're the only one out there, you stop a car, it's you and the bad guy, and the suspect, whatever. I have to believe you based on your history. If I know you're not doing that, we don't transfer problems. We fire problems. I'm not going to make someone else's headache a problem. You can't do the job. There's a lot of other jobs you can do. I'm saying Burger King always needs people. Go.
Absolutely.
So I did have one question based off the demilitarizing police force or with the SWAT and riot tactics. Previously, you mentioned that not everywhere has a riot team or like a SWAT team. Do you think that should be like more expanded upon, or do you think the way things are work out perfectly fine as is? Because I know you mentioned that some places don't have the means to do like a SWAT tactic on like a no-knock warrant or anything. So what's your opinion on that? Do you think like maybe more officers should be trained in the riot tactics slash, maybe SWAT tactics?
Well, sum that up really, something called mutual aid. If a city although we took over all the police departments in Broward County, almost all of them, a smaller city, a small department, and they had a barricaded subject, you could call the county SWAT team and we'd come in. They'd take over the perimeter and we'd execute the tactics of getting the person out. Hostage negotiator, in the scene, rotating officers in and out. We have the manpower. Any city that doesn't have it or town doesn't have it, there's always a state police that have it. There's always a county that has it. You need a full-time SWAT team? No, just like every fire department doesn't need a quick ladder truck. As long as it's regionalized, you can get to one. That's all you need. But every officer should have some advanced tactical training. That is not difficult. That's an 8-hour, a 16-hour classroom. That's what I teach. I'll show you how to fully and creatively handcuff multiple people. I will show you how to use different verbal tactics, how to get someone to comply what you do, how to look at someone and see the recall or creative section of the brain when you interview them. I will teach that to you because I was trained in that. That way, you don't need to spend all this big money on a SWAT team, the insurance, all the equipment, pristine, all the equipment, all the training need. But when you give someone a high-powered rifle, when you give someone a semi-automatic machine, whatever weapon you give them, a lot of training that must be documented, shown to keep up to date. So do that. Give them just an enhanced patrol officer survival kind of mindset course. Give them a way to make them feel better about their own ability, knowing that you still have the state, the county, or to help you if you get into that critical incident.
So on bases with the critical situations, how long do you think the response time for a SWAT team is on average for like somewhere that doesn't have the ability to control a situation?
Right, well, now first you get the call. Call comes in, help, I need somebody. Cops respond. Things fall apart very quick. They call for help. After then, okay, usually our SWAT team took approximately an hour to assemble at scene. But we all had take-home cars. We all lived in parts of the county. Some of us would be out on dinner, or we're not working, doing whatever, mowing the lawn, whatever. Call came in, you immediately respond. You set up. It takes about an hour. So I would say about an hour and a half for an out of area place. They find a place where they're going to, get an idea. To be the first person on the scene will be a scout person, will then notify the SWAT members as they come in as to what they are finding out. They're drawing a sketch, they're showing where the power and water comes into a house, whatever tactics they're going to use. It takes about an hour and a half. The scene is contained, like an active shooter, something different. It's contained. The guy's a barricaded suspect and he's firing rounds out of the house and he's screaming and he hates the world. Yeah, you could lock it down and no one in, no one out until you get the proper equipment there, and you can take an hour and a half without a problem. Then again, if something's active, then something else has to happen.
All right, yeah, that makes sense.
So now we get kind of into more of the current and controversial portion of the questions, starting off with defunding the police and what I say call what to replace them with. So kind of more of a thought exercise, I guess you could say. The argument that I kind of wanted to put forward is like, okay, let's say we defund the police, but you still most citizens are law-abiding citizens and they want some semblance of law and order. So what do we replace that with? And kind of if you went through the bullet points, talking about internal affairs, who makes sure that people are doing the right thing. How is this new civilian police force, per se, going to get their proper training, both for just incident handling as well as medical training and stuff like that, the procedures.
First of all, a policeman goes on a scene. He's a trained observer. He's going to follow this case all the way through the court because a case is never done until the jury comes back with a decision. So you want to trust your neighbor down the street who works at, who up until now worked somewhere, who knows what, come and document an incident of your loved one being attacked or hurt and have to go to court and try to pay people who do not get out of jury duty that they, that this is a case that should be prosecuted. So no, you don't like defund doctors and have just someone be a doctor. You have to go through training. I mean, I'm not for the private jails because that's just a business. That's a whole other thing that's totally wrong. Florida has a regular academy for correction officers. So almost the same as police officers, and there's a crossover if you want to become a police officer. No, you need internal affairs, you need a training, you need watchdogs. Just, if you can defund the police and say, okay, we're not going to, we'll cut back on some training in less areas that we see we don't use, and maybe we won't get new cars all the time, and maybe we won't have these huge overtime situations, or maybe we do something with pensions or whatever, which might be unfair or fair, depends on what department you're with. You need internal affairs because you need someone to say, I've done that. You need to have a little fear that you're going to be held accountable if you do something wrong. You need to have training because training must be ongoing and constantly updated because the world's changing. There's new case law coming out. And by the way, all case law against cops are done because the cops did something stupid. From Prowse versus Delaware to Belton versus New York, is all has to do with a police officer trying to cut corners and did something wrong and got caught. Not that it was bad, but he did it wrong, and now there's case law. You need a training division to bring them up to date so you don't do that. Nobody wants to go to court to help a victim of a rape only for have the cop lose the case and the rapist goes free. You don't want that. So you want to have people, you want to have some specialized training. But police are right now the only 24-hour-a-day business always open. You do need to have people that know how to do crisis. So, you need to have dog catchers. You need to have things that maybe are associated with police that shouldn't really be associated with the police if you want to cut some corner. But to defund the police and take away all their money, I don't want the guy down the street, say, 19-shot Glock 17, protecting me. I don't know what his training is. I don't know what his standard training is. I don't want that. I don't want some militia guy that his grandfather taught him how to use a shotgun and now he wants to be a cop. No, I want someone who's trained. I want to hold him accountable. I want to make it more accountability, not necessarily, not stuff, accountability. Yeah, if you do something wrong, you're done. It's that easy. So if you're an airplane pilot, you crash a plane, I think you might lose your job. So I would think that you have to be accountable. Just to say defund without a plan or just use a word, I think it's just harmful and everyone charged up about the wrong thing.
And that was another point too with defunding. We're already seeing it in I believe it's Seattle, where the Chaz area is. The police had to leave that precinct, and the response time to that area, not Chaz itself, but the surrounding area, has gone up anywhere between 15 and 20 minutes, and that's for all responses.
Well, for one, that should have never happened. The police, I'd say, you're the final line against what's going to happen. You hold the line. You call in resources. If it got to the point where that's a battle, that's deadly force, that's a battle. The rules of engagement are in effect. They're coming in to take over a police department, which is going to hurt so many other people down the road because the cops can't get them to help them, whether they have a heart attack, they have a panic attack, whatever. Cops can't get there. Do not lose a precinct. That was wrong. And you go and now you take it back. I worked for a guy who was in charge of the Philadelphia investigation, and his unit dropped a bomb on the MOVE organization in the 80s that burnt down the whole neighborhood. They didn't know there was gasoline on the top. These people were, the MOVE organizations were shooting at people, throwing feces at people walking down the street. They had warrants, all kinds of things. They killed a police officer once before. Did everything by the book, the police. We're going to drop a percussion grenade on the roof as a distraction. They didn't know they put their gasoline up there for all their supplies and fire. I have to take it back. Cannot let that kind of anarchy survive. You can't. You take it back. That's the end. That's the job we're in. This is the line. That's it. I'm not saying cross the line. I'm saying you hold the line. Now, I would not want to tell an officer, also has a family and kids and the whole bit, that I can't back you when you go in there to help someone, and it might be a setup. Who knows what they're calling you for? Yeah, there's going to be times that cops aren't going to respond because they are human, and they're going to respond a little slower and with more force. For neighborhoods, I worked in South Florida, I wanted at least 2 or 3 officers going in each time. We've had riots, as spur of the moment riots, people throwing things through windows, jumping out of buildings, pots and pans falling down on us. Happen at a spark of a moment. You have no idea, or you're not even the cause of it. You just happen to be there when neighborhoods erupt. So you can't do that. You have to find a remedy, bring in qualified law enforcement officers, not the ones like they brought in without the name tags and you don't know what department they are, because that right away shows the wrong message. You want to work with them. You know, it's bad. You want to work with people. You don't want to say it's never us versus them. It's versus bad, and we're gonna work with you. I always wanted to get the city support whenever I did. When I would go to a homeowners association, the only white person speaking in the ghetto, I worked for a black major. I said, I work for the black guy. You kid about it. Have a great time, because at the end of the day, as long as I'm fair, they'll turn their children over to me to be arrested because they're not going to get abused, they're not going to get ridiculed. I'm not going to beat them up. If you fought with me, you know that it's because you caused it. I'm going to keep my record clean. I'm going to document it, because it doesn't matter to me win or lose. I get paid overtime, and my job's okay. I'm not going to do something to stop that. I don't take it personal. You mad at me? You mad at police? Okay. You fight me? You fight me. It's okay. It's because you don't like the cops. I'm not going to do something to make it so that I lose my job, or I purge myself, or I make a false arrest. I used to unarrest people. People would come in on my shift and they try to explain what they did. You have enough probable cause. Arrest them. Because you're going to lose it in court, and now it's a civil case. Protecting you from yourself. That's part of a tangent I went on there. Sorry.
We touched this earlier in the question, but it's more, I guess, a statement at this point, with defunding, that, you know, when you talk about defunding the police as a whole, you know, the precinct has multiple divisions. Like you were working with narcotics and stuff at one point. You know, you have your people that are SWAT certified. You have your regular patrol cops. Investigations and cold case is also another one of those sections, and even with evidence holding and stuff. You know, there's this whole machine of wheels and cogs that goes into policing that people don't think about. And it's like, you know, you defund the police, like, you know, who's going to look for your kid when they get kidnapped? Who's going to be following up on these murder cases? Who's going to be digging up these old cold cases? You know, there's all these things. I just think people aren't thinking of the big picture, or even the real picture.
You're 100% right. When I go around the country teaching, especially like civilians, I tell them that all crime is not solved in 1 hour at 8 commercials. No. And crime scene units do not come out every scene. They don't come out and take over a case. There aren't prosecutors in high heels walking around the police station. Yeah. It's different. Very different. In fact, I encourage people to go for a ride along. Come out, see Absolutely. What it's like. Ride with the cops. To the front seat of a police car, so you see what they go through. The book Signal Zero, where a professor was a police officer because he was against cops, and he ended up in Jacksonville. Now he supports cops because he saw what they go through, including riots and IA investigations. But yeah, like I said, it comes back to knowing people, educating people, and have to have people enthused about their work enough that when they remember, the first person you see and the last person you see whenever you go to an airport or somewhere, usually the cop. Set the tone. So if you're a good ambassador for law and order, you look like you're in shape in the uniform, you walk with command presence, you can speak articulately, yeah, doing your job.
And that's one thing I think, kind of on the, not to play the blame game, but, you know, just with policing, I think, you know, the motto is protect and serve. And I think a lot of departments and stuff have kind of lost track of the full meaning of that serve portion, to serve one's community. And that, you know, police aren't there, against the community. They're there for the community. You know, they're not there just to arrest you. They're there to help you get out of whatever it is that you're ruining your life with. And I think that's kind of been lost both on the public and the police force.
But they're also there. They're there to prove that you're not guilty. And I mean, I worked on shifts where we had an 8-hour period, 500 calls a shift. We're running like crazy. Really don't have time to do any walk and talk, get out of the car, walk around. You know, you're going from call to call to call all night long. At the end of the night, I'm sitting there reading a couple hundred reports and making sure the person goes home that it's done correctly, because they might be gone for 2 days, days off, and has to go to court. So if you took it serious and everyone had to hold their own, yeah, you're right that maybe don't have that much time to really serve, like, you know, help with disabled vehicle. But if I'm holding in progress violent calls, can't sit behind a car with your flashing lights on while your other guys are getting their ass
Yeah.
kicked because they're fighting a family disturbance with gigantic people. So I have to weigh everything. I would like to have more. That's why we have service aides, we have community service people, we have school resource officers, we have other people that come and do that stuff. If you put it all on the patrol shoulders, something has to give. And they're going to be more of the arresting, racing, tracking down people, doing that, you know, doing the cries for help. And the, you know, my cat just ate my homework and my kid won't go to school. Can you tell him to go to
Yeah.
school? That's important. That's important because you can give a good impression on the kid, and he may like cops the way you word it in the future, because everything you do has a action to it. But can't really serve the public if you are overwhelmed. The system is running with calls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do it.
Absolutely.
As far as cold cases, go back to cold cases for a second. Now the technology has gone so far forward, you have people that specifically research that out and every now and then go back and look at that, reanalyze stuff. There's a lot that goes on that people don't know about. That all you do is see what the media wants to see or what television and the movies show you. But it's not, like I said, it's not all lights and siren. I have never had smoke billowing from my tires, made a U-turn. I never had upbeat music as I raced through a call. I don't use lights and siren on silent calls like they do on TV.
Have some bad boys blaring on the radio, right?
Hey, I used to remember those crews. Top shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of one last thing in the defunding topic is just a thought topic is the legality behind it, the logistics. So you have a lot of police officers, you know, that they've built up retirement pensions and benefits and all these other things. And when people are talking about defunding the police to open up more money for the community, well, it's like if you completely let go of every cop that's there in one time, you're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not possibly, depending on the size of it, millions of dollars in pension funds that are going to have to get paid out. And that's, you know, another aspect I don't think people really are thinking of. No, nobody's thinking of the big picture, the true, real big picture kind of thing.
Right. You're going to lose the experience of the good people. Pensions right now, especially the ones that retired when I did in 2007, 2008, they were big. They were good pensions for a life spent on the front lines. Some places have phenomenal pension funds. Some places are making tremendous amount of money. You don't want those people all of a sudden to say, hey, we're gone, because you won't be able to afford it. Your state will go bankrupt. Now you'll have no money. So you have to come with a happy medium. You have to find a way. You can't defund something that's protecting you. You can allocate some money, can make a little more accountability. You could have some enhanced training, can allow people to come in a little bit with civilian review boards to look at things from an intelligent legal standpoint. You can't, quote, defund, because if you do, and pretty soon it's going to be like Escape from New York City, where everyone's shooting each other, and he who has the most guns wins.
And also just kind of a segue to on the topic. Actually, I just lost the thought. If it comes back, I'll get back to it. The next thing I want to ask about is like for like you see in the movies and stuff, and it's like, there's that fraternity brotherhood, unspoken kind of, we all look out for each other, and like I guess like comparative it like you compare it to the criminal lifestyle, snitches get stitches on the cop side, in the culture of policing, is it taboo for good cops to see other cops doing bad things and call them out on it? Maybe not taboo for the individual to individual level, but more so like it's just been repetitive, and they bring it up to the sergeant, or they bring it up to the captain. Is there a taboo there inside the police force?
Well, I'm from the era where one of my idols was Serpico. I'm sure you know the story about Frank Serpico in New York. I also realized that at 2 o'clock in the morning, the only one out there helping me in a bad situation is a fellow police officer. I really want him to show up rather than say he had a flat tire or drive into a tree so he doesn't respond to help me. Uh, I kind of tell people that if if I screw up, let me hang. I don't want you to go down for something I did. If it's questionable, that's what lawyers are for. Let's argue it, because sometimes you can go either way, and that's life. If you out and out break the law, you steal something from a dead man because he's dead in his house and you want his pair of shoes and you think you want his shoes, no, you can't do that. If you take something at a scene, we had a guy on a search warrant open a bottle of champagne. Well, it wasn't in the search warrant to open a bottle of champagne, because what we're looking for could be in a
Yeah.
bottle of champagne. He lost his job. So if you're going to be that stupid, well, then maybe you shouldn't be there. But again, at 2 o'clock in the morning, when I'm out there fighting 6 or 7 people that jumped out of a car when I stopped them, and it's just me, yeah, I want someone there to help me, and I want someone that's going to be able to articulate what we did correctly. Am I going to go out and say, well, if I'm going to die, then use of force forms are different now. It's different if I'm at that point. I do want someone there. I don't want to alienate them. At the same time, I don't want them on my scene they're going to do something stupid as my backup. Now I'm going to get called, and my case is going to get ruined. My future is going to get ruined because they were there. Don't come here. I'll take my chances with the bad guys on the street, and you punching with me, and you doing something wrong. Yeah, there's always going to be, because of the nature. It's like in the military, when you're in a battle zone, whether it be
That
Vietnam,
heat of the moment kind of
whatever, wherever you are.
situation.
Right. At the end of the day, you go back, it has to be based on what was legal, because that way you can go sleep at night. You don't have to worry. I went to home every night knowing if they call me in the next morning screaming and yelling about something I did, I defend it. It might be out of policy a little bit, but it's not going to be criminal. It's not going to be illegal. It may stretch the boundaries, just like lawyers in court. They sometimes stretch the truth. It may stretch something a little bit. I'm not going to do anything that's going to cause me to lose this pension I had or my freedom. They're not worth it. Tell that to the guys on my shift. You may see something differently. You may not see it from where I was standing where the guy had a knife. You didn't see it. It's dark. It's a black knife. You didn't see it. And you say that. Don't make something up, because I'm seeing investigators will find the truth. Evidence doesn't lie. We'll find the truth. Just, do the truth. That's it. That's why I don't get the good cop, bad cop. I understand there's a brotherhood because you need to have some camaraderie. You're in a unique field. I do not want to risk my freedom, my financial freedom, the freedom to be outside of any kind of institution based on, I'm going to cover for you because you did something stupid. All right, it's not. I just got through 34 years of it without doing it, and I'm pretty lucky about it. I stuck by my principles.
Out of all of your years of being law enforcement and everything, have you ever came across some pretty bad cops? Like,
Yeah. Oh God, yes.
how long do they typically last before they get pushed out or fired, any of that, or resigned?
Uh, it takes documentation. So if they're supervised, I could go, when I was a patrolman, I go to another supervisor, say, look, this officer did this, or that. He would research it. My job is done. I did what I did. Whatever happens, I didn't care. I just watched to make sure that guy, when he came on my scene, I keep an extra eye on him just to make sure he didn't do it again, or he wasn't, whatever the reason was. For the most part, the moment you it depends on how bad it is. Someone that I'm not gonna say that's a white lie, but someone that enhances the truth a little bit, they might get a little bit of suspension, a little time off, because not everything rises to the level of termination or charges. Just, people are people, and stupid people try to get away with things. It's like everyone else; they're still human. But I saw something that was bad. I shot someone in the head by mistake. That was bad. Shouldn't have had his gun out, and that was bad. And that cost the department a lot of money, paying for health care, and we had to get rid of the officer. This happened. Someone who was aggressive, a lot of fights. So the minute it was brought to my attention, I honed in on it. How he became, I cleared my desk. It was my responsibility because he's on my shift. I should know about it. Supervision is to know what's going on. You don't want to ever be in a chief's office. Why don't you know this? They want to know. Just like a lawyer never asks a question he doesn't know the answer of in a trial. You have to know people so you can defend it and head it off. That's why I had kind of a successful career, because it was a character. Maybe it was a martial arts training, whatever, but it was the character that when I saw something bad, I had to take care of it. Yeah, I've hit people, taken people to the ground. I might have put a technique on that might have been a little too tough because I was fighting with more than one person. I had to control someone fast to get to the next person because it was a riotous situation and there was only a few of us, cops and 150 people throwing things at us. Yeah, it was kind of tough. I had to throw the guy through a plate glass window. Things had to happen in order to protect us. They were trying to kill us. Things happen. We had a fight with one guy. It took eight cops and a canine just boom, hit him in the head, and he looked at me and goes, "Don't do that again." So, now we're doing things that aren't really textbook, but now we're out of the realm of textbook because the guy is literally a threat to everyone around him. I hope that kind of answered the question a little bit, but yeah, it is. Are some bad ones, and the minute we find out, see a track record, good supervisor in any department would get rid of them. It's only going to be a headache for them. Sooner or later, they're going to get in trouble. Like the Miami River cops that were shooting the drug dealers and throwing them in the Miami River. The whole unit was involved. Rampart Division in California that were doing robberies. And a sergeant in Louisiana that was doing burglaries, and she shot her partner. Yeah, there are some bad cops out there. Criminals. They're just bad guys with guns. Yeah, we got rid of them. As soon as you identify them, you see the track they're on. Everyone has a second chance if it's not, criminal. Once it happens, done.
And that kind of pulls us into the next one. Have you had a chance to read over the executive order that Trump pushed on I guess you could call it police reform?
A little bit. First of all, I don't believe politics belong in law enforcement. It's the first thing. No way, no how. And I have a mixed view on the president because he says he likes law and order, but he doesn't follow subpoenas or court rulings. So I have a problem with that. Like John Gotti liked police officers by saying he liked them until they investigated them. Yeah, I like some of where they're going. I don't. Like I said, his wording. He doesn't get his message across when he speaks. The idea is there. Yes, hold should be eliminated unless your life's in danger. Then all holds go, and then all holds are off. I understand that. You have to have training. You have to have accountability. That goes without saying. That's been trying forever and never passes. You step in the way. Old dinosaurs don't want to change habits. What's good with what was good with 1 year, they don't change. You have to, that generation has to die out a little bit. No, I haven't really seen a lot of it, but some of the ideas are good. No, you just can't have a social worker respond to a family disturbance because there's still violence involved. I can't tell you how many times I went to a call where a guy beat up a wife, and while I'm trying to arrest the guy, the wife comes at me with a weapon. And I was like, oh, okay. When I hit her, he goes crazy. There's a whole lot of moving parts here that's not going to be, it's going to be cured by chiefs of police and sheriffs looking at their department, finding on an individual basis what was going on in their jurisdiction. They could change, make a blanket law of everything in this aspect.
So I did take it's not excessively long, but it was enough to pull my hair a little bit, reading through all of it. And I do feel like, definitely, like kind of like you said, he doesn't articulate what he's actually doing well. And I think that's, I guess you call it a Trumpism. The way he talks is controversial at best. But with this executive order, I think it addresses a lot of the issues that, like, kind of you were talking about, and it's not so much a blanket law as it is a mandate and resource to police stations. So one of the things, and this kind of goes in order with as it appears in the order, but one part of it creates more transparency with departments and local citizens. It puts a lot of responsibility, and I guess you'd call quasi power in the DA's hand for those districts, as far as creating systems of kind of Big Brother, making sure everything is going well and providing that information to the community. It also sets up measures that will assess police regarding the use of force and de-escalation training. So it's kind of putting forward means of seeing where do they need training and where are they doing okay. And then also in that aspect, it adds in grants for the police departments to have extra funding to be able to provide more training and resources. And then the one thing that I really liked that I think is actually going to have the most impact was the creation of a database that is shared both at the local, state, and federal level, that allows departments to track, departments and agencies to track the use of excessive force and lethal force. So like if you have an officer that, let's say the department has to let go because they messed up, they did something wrong, it wasn't illegal, but they did something wrong, and now they don't you don't want to screw over one of your guys, so you put in a good word for them, but now other agencies can see those records and stuff, and it kind of it prevents the hopscotching around, for I guess you could say bad policing. And then with what you were saying, I'm not sure exactly how they'll address it. I'm sure it'll be kind of the department to department level, but mental health and homeless cases is supposed to provide resources and personnel for police to handle those cases more expertly, people that more specialize in that. But it's definitely, you still need the police there, because if those things are violent, but I think that's kind of be a case by case basis for the precinct. But what's your thought on that?
Okay, first of all, giving more power to the DA, it's kind of strange because DA is an elected official. I have a problem with that politics. DA, every lawyer looks at the win-loss ratio. A lot of cases over my career, I have seen that, well, we really can't make the case, so let's try and do a plea bargain, or let's drop it to a lower charge. There's a problem when you involve the law involved in the legal. That's the problem. Second, I have no problem looking at police departments and assessing them and reallocating resources better used based on what their track record is. I have no problem with that. Now, the creating of a database, when I was in charge of recruiting for the sheriff's office, December 2001, I flew to New York to John Jay College of Criminal Justice, which is their police academy for the city. There were 175 recruiters around the country. Each one had a table. By the time I was done the first day, by the preparation I did, I had almost the whole department contacting me, because New York City, your last year, the year you retire is based on your last year, including overtime, and after 9/11, these guys are making a ton of money. First day up there, I had 500 employees to join my department, including most of the recruitments because of the show we put on. I spent $25,000 up there with 3 people and put on a week's demonstration in New York, Philadelphia, and York. But when I brought back your application, I made sure when I looked at it, I did the what ifs. Now, I know some department would say, hey, this guy's really, I want to get rid of this guy. He's a real garbage police officer. I'm going to get lawsuits. I'm just going to write him a good recommendation. As long as he shuts his mouth, he'll get a job somewhere else. Yeah, you're right. You need a database. Our Department of Law Enforcement, each of the 39 academies, and hold these hearings, officers in their area on their probable cause for should they be terminated. It's interesting to show the recruits the process you go through. So I'm very much for a very, very strict database. I don't want my address out there because people come to my house because I'm a bad, they're bad guys, whatever. But if my record, I want to stand behind my record. If it's good, I want you to know about it. If it's bad, well, then maybe I shouldn't be a policeman. So I have no problem in myself. For 34 years, I put myself out there. I knew I was in the public eye. I knew I was being filmed at times. I didn't care. I had nothing to hide. Like I learned how to work it and word it so you look like a fool. You learn how to play the game. That's the big thing. You got to have accountability. You have to have a way to root out those that got through the cracks that are bad. Mental health and all that. Yeah, you need to train. That's why intervention officers are the best because they have arrest powers, have all the other skills that a police officer needs, yet they have the added bonus to help the public more. So that's real important. I don't want to have here's an example. In Broward County, sheriff did not like the way child crimes were being handled. So he went out and he hired 70 people, gave them all cars, computers, cell phones, and had them work under some supervisors, and they would take over the child investigations. Get over. There was always a police involvement. Now they went out by themselves, but if it was something bad, a policeman went there. The initial one was usually just go out, talk to the family, whatever, case by case. But there are things you can do to work with them so that they're not putting these social workers who have maybe some great college but no life experience. Nothing's worse than a 25-year-old police officer going up to people 50 years old and telling them to act like an adult.
Yeah.
It's grown up. It's kind of funny. So the idea is to make sure that wherever you're doing, they do it safe. Certain areas, yes, certain areas don't need it. Grants always use more money appropriated correctly. That's why you have grant writers and departments that put out for it. That's why they have the Safe Streets Act that allows a certain amount of officers for a couple of years, and the city can then take on the police officers, the cost of them later on if it works out. There's things out there. You just have to get I think we have generation of police leaders. Fortunately, not my training officers were World War II and Vietnam vets. I was a Vietnam era person myself. I had a lot of life experience. We were general. We did general. We did everything. They got specific. Now you have people that may have a great college background, but have no real life experience, have never got punched in the face, never had to chase someone, never called for help. They don't know what goes on. They're in command position. They may get there because of favoritism. Who knows why they're there? But the problem is that the bosses are not in touch with reality, and they're not. I tell people this is why we did what we did. I stood up in front of my accountability process. It was so bad in my department that 2 sergeants over the years committed suicide. Our accountability process was the worst in the country. We took some stats from New York and made it so bad. They told a lieutenant whose mother was dying of cancer, "You're not a doctor. You need to be here for these meetings." They told a guy who moved out of the area, "Go to your house and move back. You're too far away from where you patrol." I mean, they would if you said I talked to so and so, they would call that person up on the phone right there and ask them. I stood in front of a big room with a white light on me, with things behind me showing me, how come this refrigerator was on the street for 3 days and you didn't know about it in your area? Right, you're not doing your job. How come you have 17 crashes in this intersection? What have you done about it? That kind of accountability taken a little too far, but that accountability made sure that I could tell you how many kids in my neighborhood ate government subsidy lunches at school. I could tell you who got their mail picked up and what time the garbage trucks came. I knew my area. That's what you need to do. Get back to the old cop on the beat. I'm the last cop I know I started walking the beat. In a nightstick, walking the beat, took care of me, the businesses, and I took care of them. Learned about watching their windows at night so they weren't broken. First thing I did when I came on duty at night was to watch, make sure there was no reported burglaries. I made sure that they saw me. They made sure that I was taken care of. That was the original community policing. I also did this. This is another thing that you may want to think about in one of your future talks. I worked the airport in Fort Lauderdale. I don't speak any other language than English. I couldn't communicate with the foreign travelers from South America or somewhere. I invented a form, NCR paper. The top paper was in their language. The bottom paper was the translation English. All you do is mark off, I'm the victim of, and check boxes. Suspect look like what? Because this way, you got the paper, I hand it to you, feel like I'm communicating with you. I look at the bottom page, it tells me in English what you did, and there's a bad guy, I arrest him. That, you couldn't find the guy. You have to call the language line, try to arrange to get someone who spoke Portuguese, when I could just pull out a piece of paper, hand it to you, and I already started to report. That's the kind of community policing. That's what you do. That's what I'm talking about, and that's what I've done in my career, is think outside the box, be creative. And I would give my guys an opportunity. Go with the case. A guy says his house was burglarized. Was he really burglarized, or did he want to find out that that's the way you don't have to go to court the next day? Do a little research. Be thorough, be inquisitive, be suspicious. Always remember, stay within the law. Have fun. I'll tell you this right now. Policing is the most fun you'll have dressed.
Veering off of that, but kind of related, here and there, it's almost become like the catchphrase for when, there's something that's wrong that you address, but we don't really solve, and that's, calling it racist. What's your perspective on the narrative that police as a whole are systemically racist, or at least the majority of police are systemically racist?
I worked with a lot of guys who worked in bad neighborhoods. I worked with officers of all races, all sex, all that. No one I know ever woke up that morning and said, I'm going to kill someone or I'm going to beat someone up today. No one ever did that. That'd be unacceptable. By peer pressure, that would not be accepted. Now, if I worked in an area at one time in the city of Pompano, in all your city, part of it, that was, I would say, 99.9% black, very poor. I would start. So why are you picking on me? I'm black. I said, well, everyone here is black. The person said the guy who robbed her was not a short, Asian male. He was a black male. It looked like your build. I'm talking to you. I learned how to do. We all learn a little bit. I'm not say learn, but we all develop some prejudice somewhere along the line based on things that happened to us in our life. That's human nature. Me, each call was in a stat. It was a person needed help. I didn't care. It wasn't affecting me. It didn't happen to me. It really didn't. It didn't happen to my family. It didn't happen to me. The car accident happened, but it didn't happen. It didn't personally affect me. I tried to instill that. And there's some racism because people are just racist. There's some good old boys. There's some black cops that hate white guys that hate black guys. It's part of it. Is it not the whole agency? No, but it doesn't help. You're standing online, everyone's screaming at you, and you're looting the city. It doesn't help cause. Now, the thing I was going to say this, that part of that, they say you're racist if you shot him in the back. Well, if you point a gun at me while you're running away, you can still fire at me, and if I shoot at you, I'm going to hit you in the back. That's the target presented. I shoot you in the back on purpose. I shot you at the target you presented me. They're talking about that taser thing. Oh, he shot him because he's black. He shot him in the back. Well, pointed a gun at me and he's running away, and you shoot, you're going to hit his back. A bullet travels pretty fast before he turns back around. Whatever. I think they're trying to make race for every time you stop someone. I just stop because I'm black. Everyone in the neighborhood's black. And a red light. I'm stopping you because I'm stopping because it was a red light, not because you're black. House versus Delaware. A Delaware state trooper stopped a guy named Prowse. Why did he stop him? Oh, he's black. I want to see if he has a driver's license. So right then, you can't stop someone just to check for a driver's license or if they're black. Did something stupid. Everyone pays for it. So it's not worth it. Do something of, quote, race. You can't justify it, can't articulate it. So then you're going to make up facts. Now you're lying. Now you're not a good cop because you're saying you stopped him because you don't like a black person, but then you said, well, he looks suspicious, or Terry versus Ohio, I wanted to pat him down and I found a submachine gun in his back pocket. Well,
Yeah.
now you're stretching the truth. But yeah, there is some racism. I've had prejudice with bosses. I've had prejudice with white bosses and black bosses against me. I've had some that supported me, no matter what the color they were.
Yeah.
So it's an individual person. I don't think the job goes out and hires people based on how racist they're going to be. Well, he became a cop because he wanted to hurt people. No, that gets weeded out pretty quick. We're pretty good at that. Weeded out through the things in the academy and the stress level that the Broward Academy puts you through. I'd find out real quick if you're a racist. I'm purposely going to do things to you to see if you're
like push those buttons and get that response out of them.
Buttons. Right. That's right. Because you're going to saving me a headache later on. Because once you're off probation after a year, you got to go through the union to get rid of you. And it's going to be tough. I have to make sure my ducks in a row. There has to be progressive discipline, all kinds of crazy stuff that has to be done legally before I get rid of you. If I can wash you out in the academy, or I can wash you out during your probation period that first year, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be not the nicest person to you to see how you act, because I want you to succeed. I have a vested interest in you retiring after 25 years in this department, carrying on some of the things I taught you. It's a personal thing for me. So I would do what I can as an academy. For 2.5 years, I ran the academy. I was the coordinator. I taught all classes. I could teach almost all of the 770 hours of the police academy I could teach. After I left, I was always brought back for our last night of the academy, when you do all the scenarios to work with the recruits. I had a great rapport with the academy. Plus, I wrote part of the curriculum using all 39 police academies in Florida. I had a vested interest in doing that. I would push their buttons. I would own them. I would be their worst nightmare. I want them to be the best they can be, that they won't get tripped up in court. They won't get something stupid on the street. And because I take pride, if a policeman does something wrong in California, I as a policeman felt it. I felt the bad vibes. So I made sure that at least where I was good.
No, absolutely, and that kind of goes like
I
I call it like the kill room mentality when you're doing the kill room training, and you make a mistake, that's where it stops. In that training environment,
Right.
that if you're gonna make a mistake, make it there, learn from it there. Don't ever let it leave that place.
Also, common sense. Don't wear something when you're not working that's racist. Put a black target up for target shooting. Don't be smart. Don't lose your brain because you became a cop. Still a human being. I've been saved, worked very well alongside of all colors and creeds, everything. It doesn't matter. You're a policeman to me. I judge you on you being a cop. When I started, there were no females, there were no blacks in the police department. Some of the guys were really prejudiced. We used to wear the blue uniforms and the white socks, black shoes. They look hilarious. And they're gone. They're all gone now, and it's been replaced by people that are more diverse. And of course, sometimes a woman could be used, a female police officer, on certain sexual crimes, better to talk to than a guy talking to that might be the same age as the person who committed the crime. Yeah, there's good and bad and everything. But I don't believe across the board, based on what I saw, there was racist. We got rid of them. There were prejudices. And people do joke. The humor in police departments is, because you deal with death all the time. You go to a call where a guy's hanging, and you ask the guy who's hanging, "You want a piece of pizza?"
Yeah, I imagine it's kind of similar with the military and stuff. The way
Exactly.
we joke about certain things, and to an average civilian, that would be absolutely horrific. But that's how you
do it outside the public. The public doesn't have to hear it; they have to know it. When it comes time, put on that correct front. Remember, you are the person that I want. I'm the person that the little kid comes up to and says, "Can you help me?" When a parent comes up to me and says, "I want you to do to bad people," I say, "No, I usually arrest the parents." I don't want the kid to get a negative feeling about cops after you're gone, and he has to answer. He needs a cop for help. I'm always trying to think of creative ways to reach out to the community. That's why I got involved in so many different programs with self-defense. It put me on a different level with the communities.
Do you ever follow Officer Nomad?
Is that?
Have you ever followed Officer Nomad? He's a pretty famous YouTuber slash vlog person. He's really hardcore in the black community, and he's always posting about doing stuff with them. He takes them out to lunch, and a lot of the black community has either a mental issue or mentally handicapped or something like that. But he goes to the area Section 8s and stuff, and he's really involved with his community and stuff. Because you said you try to reach out in community and stuff. I think he's a very great inspiration for that.
When I was a policeman, I had a great job. I had great benefits, had great working conditions. As long as I didn't do something stupid, I had a job. I could always make more money at it. It also opened doors for me. So if I'm out working and someone needs a hamburger, you get them a hamburger. Someone needs a cab ride, you give them a ride. You pay for a bus thing, whatever. I remember the airport, we had a group, about 35 people came down to take a officer class at a school, and school went bankrupt. Our captain went to the sheriff's department and worked out a deal to have all 39 people go back to their home state because they got ripped off. Yeah, I'm from this idea that I have it pretty good. So I don't have to keep my chest at your expense. And I try to make sure that, go to work prepared, and I work with the people. I work with them. I work for them and with them. It makes my job a lot easier. When things happen, people come to my defense. You make an arrest and someone gets hurt because they kept fighting, and you take them down to the ground, and the next thing you know, an ambulance is called for them. The crowd goes, "No, cop's lucky. You should have killed him, but he didn't kill him. I think the cop did a good job of not killing him." So you're established in the community. That's what policing is. Yeah, I don't know the guy, but I applaud what he does.
I was gonna say I think his name is Tommy Norman.
I'll research it later.
Yeah, he's an officer from Arkansas. I definitely suggest
I will.
Definitely.
I'm taking notes.
I also had another question. It kind of goes back a little, but it was to address the mental health and homelessness cases, providing more resources to police to properly handle these cases. Have you ever been heard or been aware of the training that's became pretty popular of lately with the virtual reality training with dealing with autism cases and stuff like that?
Oh, I have not, but I'm all for any kind of training, whether it be virtual, hands-on, or however you want to do it.
It's definitely an interesting training. I definitely think it'd be very useful for dealing with the mental health out in the public. It puts you in a position where you have to play as two roles. You either play as the officer who is dealing with an autistic person, how to deal with the lights on the police cruiser, how to approach the situation and not escalate it. And then the second part is you play as the autistic person, and it puts you in a spot where you're dealing with a bad cop, and how it kind of puts you in the perspective of how that person feels and stuff. And I think it's a pretty exciting new way. I don't know if they make officers pay for it or not, but I definitely think it's a very interesting
Walking in someone's shoes is always a good way to learn what they do. That's for sure. That's good. Now, when it comes to homeless, we had a homeless shelter in the city of Pompano, and after dark, if someone was there, the police officer would respond and do a record check, so we didn't put a guy with a criminal past in a place that had family members, kids running around, that kind of stuff. We tried to do as much as we could with the resources we had. I would like to see, like anywhere else, more resources you have that allow the cops to do what they're trained best at. We have a paramedic that was on the SWAT team. It's easier to take a paramedic and teach him tactics than it is to take a cop and teach him how to be a paramedic. So you go with it's easier to let a river go the way it goes rather than try to fight the current. So if you take someone that has a skill a certain way, you can enhance that skill, then you've done yourself a great service rather than force feed someone to do something they really don't want to do or don't have a knack for or going to screw it up anyway. So, I mean, there is some good thoughts out there, and I think that's going to really make the profession professional, so to speak.
Absolutely. Um, moving into kind of more to the more current things. One thing I did want to touch on, I guess not extremely current anymore, but with the whole George Floyd movement and how Black Lives Matters has gotten really involved in stuff. Um, I feel like it's a double standard, and it's a movement without any kind of foundation behind it. Because, absolutely, I fully support that, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, cops' lives matter, everybody matters. We're all afforded the same equality as far as life and making good choices. But the issue I had was when the riots started happening, the retired police chief, David Dorn, was shot and killed, and there was like almost no coverage of it, and like I just feel like I hate that there's this kind of double standard in narratives when it comes to the media and stuff, and it goes on both sides. Each side has kind of their little bias that they cover, but I still feel like at the end of the day, something like that, it's like that has nothing to do with bias. That's you know an important aspect. And what's kind of your take on how the narratives have gone in the media?
Oh, it's definitely if it bleeds, it leads, and it's whatever's exciting is exciting. Unfortunately, a 24-hour news cycle, it's almost like we're being uh, programmed to accept certain things. Uh, Again, problem comes back from he didn't get out in front of the problem before it happened. Bosses sat back. You get ahead of it, or you end up with what you have. All these things could have been prevented if they had just built before it happened. If they're in the community before it. I think right now we should just start building a lot of bridges, come to a table, and come to some kind of understanding. I'm so appalled that a retired police officer, captain, was killed and there was no media coverage. I've been to, since I was a police officer in Broward, when I was there was 11 officers killed, including sergeant who worked for me, and it was my scene. I had 600 cops respond, and I shut down Florida Highway, Florida Turnpike, and I-95 for 150 miles in all
Wow.
directions. It was the biggest case I ever had. It was I resigned that night. That was my case. It was 11th cop in line of duty. He was my friend for 3.5 years. We worked 4 out of 5 nights together. He walked out of his car. I was supposed to meet him. A little late in getting there, and he was shot. He got 6 bullets in him. He was covered with his blood at the scene. So really appalled. And yet there were no riots. Had a huge funeral. We paid respect. We didn't burn anything down. Nothing. I have a real problem with that. Now I can understand being frustrated, but you are cloaking and using it as an excuse everything else in the world that's your problem. I don't have an iPhone, so you burn down a building. Sorry, but I do not think that has any part of it. You can have Black Lives Move. I don't care. You can have any kind of lives matter. You could be proud of any race. There's no problem. But when you turn to criminal activity, what that criminal activity has done, it's taken the media away from a decorated person who spent his whole life helping people. It's wrong. Yeah, the guy was shot. Maybe he should have been. Maybe he should not have been. I have no idea. I've seen some video. I've heard some of the testimony. I saw some of the stuff the DA did. I don't agree with everything. And as a use of force expert, I have my opinions. I haven't got all the facts yet. Been 100% successful with the PBA and FOP with defending police officers on cases that I've taken because I've looked at them and said, yes, I can protect this person, or no, I can't protect them because what you did is out and out wrong. So I really don't know yet on this one.
And are you referring to the Garrett Rolfe case in Georgia.
Yeah. And also the Floyd. The Floyd, he
Hmm.
was wrong. The
Oh,
technique was
absolutely.
outside the that
Yeah,
was outside the
absolutely.
box. I was outside the box. I would never take his. I would take the one in Atlanta. Might be a possibility. I haven't seen all of it, but there might be a place there where you could show certain laws, Supreme Court decisions that possibly based on the timing how things were done. The action done afterwards, I can't defend. Okay, I defended one that went to CNN TV about guys that were fired from West Palm Beach who were federally charged, and my guy got off because I could defend him. I couldn't defend kicking someone on the ground and some of the other things. I could defend some easy stuff with mindset and showing possibly the state of mind of the bad guy and why they did things. I could do that. But maybe in Atlanta, I could defend some of it, but I can't defend the actions afterwards. The one with Floyd, I would not even want to go near that one because
Yeah.
that was just
I don't think there's any. I don't think there's anybody that has seen that, even the footage alone, and in a right state of mindset that was correct behavior.
face down by the exhaust of a car, handcuffed. No, that's gone. But the bottom line is that what destroys the whole Black Lives Matter movement, everything, is what followed in the streets. They have made people not want to talk to them. Then other people got involved because it was politically correct. Should have been involved beforehand. Now everyone, now there's no longer an Aunt Jemima.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done typical American. We swung the pendulum too far in other directions. Rather than stay in the middle and discuss it, we've made radical decisions. That puts the police in a bad position because now anytime something happens, they're going to be linked into what's going on.
Well, there's that whole blue foo movement too, where the night that or yeah, the night shift that Garrett Rolfe was indicted on, majority of them called out. It's getting to a point
You
where
can't do that though.
cops are getting like you can't police anymore almost. It's getting to that point where if you do your job, you might end up in jail.
Now, there's a way to do your job, not look like the bad guy by walking off the job. Smart people can figure out what I'm saying by doing it. You don't have to be overly aggressive. You don't have to be doing traffic stops. You be present and you can still respond. The moment you do a blue flu and you step out, now you kind of like all bets are off because it's almost like it's not like the rioting, but it's your actions after that have now kind of
Yeah.
labeled you.
And it's like, with
There's a
the
way to handle a
with
problem.
the community aspects, like, your job is to protect the community, and if you're not there to do that, you're opening them up to criminals taking action against them.
I don't like all the laws when I was a policeman. I didn't like some of the rules that came down from the command staff. You know something? I found a way to live with it without breaking the law, without not doing my oath of office. So I think if you are a smart person, understand the law, you understand what your job is, you can protect yourself pretty much in any situation if you really know your craft. And I would never call out sick because it hurts. Go down the block, can't defend himself. I'm not going to make a statement on his life, using his life as my
Yeah.
statement. Make my statement my own way, but I'm going to go to work because at the end of the day, when it's all over, I had a guy in Florida that didn't want to come to work during one of the hurricanes. He said, "I'm going to stay home." But you can't stay home. You have to come to work. I want to stay home. Well, you can't. You have to come to work. We'll put up you and your family. We'll put in shelter if you fear. I'm not coming to work. So when you're not working here anymore, you got to go to work. You bring your family. We'll help you. At the end of the day, the public depends on you being there. You have to be there. I don't want to be there. That's fine. It's okay. Maybe the job's not for you. I would not take an action where I'm going to hurt anybody else. My statement. I think that's wrong.
I can definitely see that.
I'll voice my protest. I'll voice protest. I will be heard. I will find a way. Which whether social media, so I'll be heard. I will have my day in court, so to speak. It's not going to be at the expense some innocent citizen that relies on me for his protection. It's not going to happen. That's not the job. That's where I think my attitude might be
No,
different than
absolutely.
some.
I appreciate that viewpoint. That does kind of really change my perspective on it. I was kind of indifferent, but now, like, with saying that's a very valid point that I don't think anybody really thought of in the big picture.
This is
Excellent.
over. I would have had. I might have lost my job for what I said to the mayor and people and different things. I might have put myself in jeopardy that way, but I'm not going to harm someone else because I am mad at something that happened. I didn't have nothing to do with it. I'm not going to let the officers that go to work be one short that could help them and they get hurt because I am mad because some mayor doesn't
And it's
like the
like kind of
cops.
unintentionally blood on your hands.
I'm not going to do it. Just won't do it. And I'll I'm saying this is what I've had in my office, in my karate schools, everywhere. Right is right if no one else does it. Wrong is wrong if everyone else does it. That's why I was to be the director for a chapter of the Ethics Association, because my idea was that I'm going to follow the rules. I'll make the rules work for me by not breaking the rules. I will find a way to message across. At the end of the day, I'm going to win. I do not lose in court. That may sound like kind of egotistical, but in all the court cases I've had defending cops, 2007 when I retired, up to last year, 2019, I never lost a case. Don't lose cases. I will make a case. If I take your case, whatever the reason is, up until now, I've left an all-win situation. So we'll defend you if you're worth defending. If you were right. Ooh, that sounded really
No,
ego.
that's
I'm sorry.
fine.
Yeah, you're fine. I think I actually just want to buy your book now.
The second book's coming out soon. It's gonna be a better book.
Definitely interesting viewpoint. Like definitely respectful. Definitely opened my mind a little to a different side of things, and highly respect that.
Well, like I say, it's a job. It's a career. I want to do the best I can. Took it for a reason to help people. I've did it since I was my entire adult life. The only guy I know that's been retired since 2007 and still involved in helping people. So I like it. It gave me purpose. It was something I enjoy. Satisfaction out of it. And if I could mentor someone else, they don't get in trouble and they can help someone, great. That's just my philosophy. I don't expect anyone else to have it, just mine.
And on the topic of, defense and stuff, kind of going into our last topic with Garrett Rolfe, who is the officer in Georgia that's being charged now. The last I saw, the conviction is up to felony murder now, and I have a serious problem with that because I feel like it's a possibility of two different sides. On one side, it might just be charging him with that because they want to make kind of like a civil unrest because that charge is not going to stick. A felony murder, I mean, by the book, you have to be in the act of a felony, like robbing a bank at gunpoint and then kill someone to be, in the lines of what a felony murder covers. And this officer, um, and just to break it down, um, the Georgia law, well, to paint the picture for anybody that hasn't seen the footage, basically there was about 45 minutes or so. This individual had passed out in a drive-through. They were intoxicated, and for about 45 minutes, the officers were talking with this individual, trying to just keep the situation de-escalated, and submitted him to a roadside sobriety test. He failed, and when it came to the point in which they were arresting him, the suspect began to fight against them, resisting arrest. At one point, kind of, I guess you call it like a sloppy judo throw one of the cops onto the ground, and came into possession one of the officer's tasers and began to run. In this process, he had turned around and had the taser pointing at the officer in pursuit. The other officer that was on the ground then took, I believe it was 3 shots, 2 hit mark, 1 hit a vehicle that was in the line, and it killed the individual. The issue I have with the legalities around this is, in this case, the I guess it would be the defense lawyer is stating that a taser is not a deadly weapon, and not a firearm. However, Georgia state law specifically states that tasers are considered firearms. And there was a previous case in the past where an officer that utilized a taser in an event, and it was considered deadly force, or I guess possibly deadly force. And so, like, there's already a double standard narrative here where they're pitting the law against the cops, but you flip flop it when it comes to civilians. And I have a lot of problem with that. And then so back to the charge, the felony murder charge. It's like, the one thing that I think is that the DA is fueling this civil unrest and the minds of these people, that when you charge that person with that, it's not going to go through. He's going to get dropped on those charges, and he's going to be scot-free if that's the only charge that they try to pit against him, and that's going to piss a lot of people off. But what's kind of your thought on that?
All right. Well, let me sum up first with this line. As a police officer, you have a split second to make a decision. Shoot, don't shoot, search, don't search. Once you make a decision, you can go a second. 10 years to the United States Supreme Court. 4 of the most learned law people in the world. 4 say you're 100% right, officer. 5 say you're wrong. You're an idiot. Even though 4 agree with you. So that's the pressure you have when those kind of decisions. Now, you can, like I said, you can shoot someone in the back if they're pointing a weapon and they're running away. They're pointing a weapon. A friend of mine, a major who retired SWAT commander in North Miami, Florida, of mine, and we've been friends. New Jersey as a policeman and Florida as a policeman. We've been friends forever. We analyze this at great length from what we know. If the taser had already discharged, first of all, a taser shooting at someone, or the taser and had to be tased in order to carry it, I know what it feels like. I'm going to fall to the ground, and if I fall wrong, I could be incapacitated. I could be hurt. I could become helpless. Who knows? Second, one of those prongs that hit me in the eye caused great bodily harm. So now we're talking deadly force. If I'm on the ground and I am hopping around, you have 5 seconds. If you don't pull the trigger again, which you can, get my gun. Fall down, get hurt, you can get my gun. So yes, there's a problem with a taser. If the taser was already fired, it's basically no longer a weapon, a deadly force weapon. He could come up and drive stun you, but there's enough space and time that you can defend yourself because of the distance. There's different spots that could be done there. The problem is, what did the officer see from his point of vision, his mindset at the time it happened? This is nowhere near close to a felony murder. Nowhere in the ballpark. Could be a negligent homicide. Could be a use of force issue, definitely. But to be felony with life or death penalty, he did not wake up that morning and say, I'm going to kill this guy. Now, what does this guy do? There's a lot of problems with that case, because if the guy was drunk, you don't let him park his car himself. There's a lot of police things I saw from a supervisor standpoint that I would question. Once the fight started, saying, well, he didn't tell him he's under arrest. There's a reasonable and prudent person. No, he didn't appear to be too drunk. Well, he was drunk based on the breathalyzer. He knew he was being taken into custody when he felt the handcuffs come out, and you don't have to say you're under arrest. They're going to make that, they made that a sticking point. That's kind of like a little salt in the wound. Once the fight started, and once he grabbed the taser, changed the whole complexure of the case. But then you go back to, if the guy fired a taser and didn't hit the cop fired afterwards as the guy ran away. Yes, Gardner versus Tennessee, he was wrong in that no matter what the weapon the guy had ready discharged, and it was no longer a threat. If it happened pretty much simultaneously, where the guy pointed and he heard the bang of the taser, and again, I don't know how well the guy was searched. I've had people that were searched, and again, in the station, they find a gun down their crotch. He could have pulled a gun. The guy could have thought it was a gun. I have to look at the United States Supreme Court says you have to look at it from a reasonable and prudent police officer standpoint based on his training about the totality of the circumstances. Taser can hurt. Taser can manipulate you. There was a fight. This guy beat 2 cops. And he yelled, "I got him." It was not what this female sergeant from LA said. See, it was one of those, "I got him, I showed him." No, got him because that's what you said after you got. I got him.
They got the target.
It wasn't that way. It wasn't that he shot him in the back. I swung my nunchakus once at someone, hit a guy in the head. The head wasn't the target I aimed for, but it was a target of opportunity because he looked back as I swung at the same time. Shame on him. Too bad, so sad. You got hit in the head and got 45 stitches. It happens. Apologize, but he went to the hospital. I have a problem, and this is a defendable case. It's not, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not the say all, end all wizard, but I do not believe it is felony murder. I think the DA unfortunately was playing to the crowd. That definitely, the wheels of justice in a different place, because now it's a higher bail. It's going to be harder to get a jury to have a fair trial. It's like jury should disregard what he said. You can't, you already heard it. So basically, he has muddied the waters, his grandstanding, 11 charges. I can understand the bullet that went into the car with the witnesses. That was reckless. He made a big deal out of that too. It's going to happen. He didn't intend on hitting them.
But as a police officer, you're held to a certain standard to conduct yourself in a specific way, regardless of the situation.
I don't think this guy was not his intent to shoot the guy, kill him premeditated, or to send the bullet into another car down the road. He didn't like them either. I think the prosecutor, DA, a little too much grandstanding. Yes, the guy was. And there also has to be a due process. I can understand firing someone. I can understand them putting them on suspension. Investigate the case first. Now, I want to. If I arrest you, my word against yours. Go to the grand jury. Prove the case. But I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that at all. They immediately. How they miraculously work this case so fast, its conclusion so fast, and they go felony murder. I don't see felony murder. Only my law school answer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that kind of sums up everything that I thought on it and wanted to speak on it. But kind of on the same topic a little bit. Once a subject is subdued, let's say you have to use lethal force to, ultimately de-escalate a situation. What is the mindset versus what is the training for officers as far as you take a shot to incapacitate somebody with lethal force, and then, immediately after that, administer first aid and try to keep them alive? Like, what is the mentality there for police officers and training?
You're supposed to do that because you're held to a higher standard. But if you just shot someone, you're going through a tremendous amount of psychological situations right then. Another officer could have gone over and lended aid, check on his brother officer. Are you okay? Okay, good. Let me go and do that guy. Call for an ambulance. Move the guy he's on a rescue position, which is on his side rather than on his face down on his stomach, whatever. Protect the scene. There's things you have to do. If you just shot someone, you might not be in the best capacity of giving him the aid he needs. You're going to be confused. You're going to be going through tunnel vision, selective hearing, selective sight. You're going to be in a world of chemical reactions going on in your body, fight, flight, all that stuff. I wouldn't want that person, his state of mind. I've seen people that were on shootings. You had to walk over and I had to take the gun away from them and decock the gun myself because they were in a state of shock. They couldn't have helped me. They could probably hurt someone. The gun would have gone off accidentally to someone else. So I understand that, active shooter, you step over a body going after the shooter. You don't stop and help the person because you want to get the person.
Situational.
There's all kinds of mind in his mind. I mean, there's all kinds of things going through nanoseconds. You really have to take him out of the loop at that moment. The other guy, yeah, should have went over. He didn't do the shooting. He might have got his ass kicked a little bit. He should have went over and sat the guy down and immediately went. They did shoot. They did do something to this guy. So they have a responsibility to make sure he's okay. Do that when you in custody of someone, when you take their freedom away, you have some care, some duty, responsibility. The guy who shot, I really would not want him or expect him to start doing all kinds of miraculous things, because I don't know his mindset. He might shoot himself. Who knows what he might do? He might be so upset he might kill himself. Who knows? So I have a real problem with that. And the fact that the guy should have done something. They did the shooting. Now he's segregated. He's off. He's out of the picture. Put him down in the car. Take away his gun. Relax him. Protect him. He doesn't harm himself, or no one harms him for what he did. You find out what went on. I have a problem with a lot of things that happened there. And I have a lot of problem with the police response that happened during and after. Yes, maybe they were never exposed to it. You know, I come from a place where we were exposed to that a lot more frequently. And since those skills are perishable, if you don't use them or never had to use them, you really can't expect them to do it. So you have to look at the training the cop had, what his experience was. I come from an area where every night we had use of force fights every night, arresting 30, 40 people every night. We were busy, and I expect someone to handle themselves differently than if someone came from a slower patrol district into my district for the night. I wouldn't expect them to keep up with the rest of the crowd, but I expect them to do basic police work, maybe not the advanced level that we did because we had hands-on for so long.
No, absolutely.
That wasn't either. A real problem with how management handled a lot of things.
And I feel like with the Garrett Rolfe case, as far as the conduct of the officers throughout the whole thing, I think it was, you know, maybe if it wasn't a lack of training, a lack of confidence and skills, anybody that is properly trained in any type of martial arts or grappling probably would have been able to handle that better, to where it wouldn't have escalated to the point that it did. So I think that's an example to learn from.
Fast. So you have to learn that, a training moment, learn that. You have to control a person right away. You can't fight. A minute's a long time, depends on the side of the door you're on in the bathroom. So it starts to go physical, must end it right away. If you don't train and be mentally prepared, you can't go to police work, have bad Chinese food that night, and have upset stomach and try to do your job. You have to come without problems on your mind. You have to deal in the now. You have to end it right away, because the longer it goes, there's always more of a chance that you're going to get hurt. That's why I don't believe in long, drawn-out fights. You end it fast. Quickly, fast, pressure point, common perennial nerve down the knee, the shin, down the side leg, the shins, out his ability to stand. You do something to put him down, a controlled environment before someone gets hurt or their taser's taken.
Absolutely. Anything that you would like to recap on throughout the talks?
I enjoyed it. It was a chance to have some fun, and you know, I hope people hear this, and I hope people question it. People will take the idea that maybe they should get some more training, and that all cops aren't bad. It is a complicated world. We are human.
If any police officers do hear this and are interested, how can they contact you for you know, future training, or you know, with the company that you're providing services right now?
You can always get me. The best way is through my email address. The best way. It's MARTKATZ1. That's martkatz1@gmail.com. And I'll definitely review or discuss whatever you need. I still love, even though I'm retired for a while, I still love the profession, and still care for the guys and girls.
It's like you might take off the uniform, but the uniform doesn't take you off.
Yeah, I'm still, you know, I still sit facing the door. I still look around. I'm still prepared. Still think of crisis rehearsal. I'm always in condition yellow or orange when I go out.
Yeah. Once again, for any of our listeners, Marty Katz, his book, Pass the Uniform, available now on Amazon Kindle, and a new book coming out soon in the future, so we look forward to that one as well. But I thank you for your time, Mr. Katz. I greatly enjoyed this. It
Thank
definitely
you.
opened my eyes to a couple of things, and just hearing your perspective was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting conversation. I definitely appreciated your time for taking a step on onto our podcast and giving us a chance to interview you. I definitely know I'm probably going to end up bugging my wife to buy the book now.
Well, if you need any follow-up or another topic comes up that I can add to it, or you might want my input, feel free to
Absolutely.
reach out to me.
We might, as time goes on, I'm sure we'll have plenty of topics and updates for maybe a short follow-up or whatever. Yeah,
Sure.
You definitely know your information, and we highly appreciated your input
absolutely.
today.
Thank you. Again, my friend, take care, and I shall talk to you hopefully soon.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good one.
Too.